the Wedell-Williams jobs. I mean, I should have gotten in there and claimed a little more credit on that, because I did show him how to build the airplane, although the wings came off of the first one, but I mean, I didn't happen to be flying at that time.
Oh, that's Roscoe being Roscoe. But if you want to find out more about that flight where the first Model 44 had wing problems, there's a book called the Wedell-Williams Air Service. I'll have that information in the description below. Also, if you want to see the full length of those two videos I just showed, those links will also be down in the description as well. Before we get ready to start, I want to point everyone to another item in the description. This is the official Gilmore 92-inch build thread on the Hobby Squawk forums. There's a lot of really good information in there, and one contributor, Two Wing TJ, he put in a lot of work on one of the early models, and in fact, a lot of his information is what convinced me to buy and build this model. So I urge all of you to head over to Hobby Squawk, check out that forum, and give Two Wing TJ a big thumbs up for his work. All right, it's time for the wings. We started off with talking about the wing problems. We hope we're gonna build this so we don't have any wing problems, but we're gonna start off with some nice close-up pictures of the real NR61Y at the Crawford Auto and Aviation Museum in Cleveland. And then we'll zoom in and we'll do the pin hinges on the ailerons. We'll install the servos, get the push rods, aileron horns, and then button everything up. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and zoom in and get to work. So starting off with some nice shots of the wing of the real NR61Y. So let's get started. Here is the wing. And if you didn't realize, the ailerons are attached but not glued. So we'll take this tape off and simply pull the aileron off, and you'll see there's only 2 hinges from the factory, and it comes off quite easily. We'll take the tape off for the servo hatch. It comes off pretty easily, just take your time and go slow. And it's nice that it lines up with the faded lines, so you'll be able to put it back in the right orientation. I also want to point out the pilot holes in the bottom of the hatch, and we'll look at those later. So here's the aileron and the 4 factory hinges. I usually use the Robart 3/16 hinges. I bought a big bag of these, and I've used these in all of my 50cc and up planes, probably about a dozen of them that I've built over the years. So I'm going to go ahead, since the Robarts are a little bit longer, I'm going to trim them really quick to get them to be about the right size, and we'll go from there. The first step is to scuff up the hinges. Now, I have a little piece of rough sandpaper. I'm just going to rotate them around. The goal is to scuff them up. It's not to make them smaller. You don't really want to take hardly anything off of these. You just want to scuff it up. You want to create a nice scuffed surface for the glue. Then we'll go and we need to wash these off. Probably just good practice. So I take some alcohol, put in a container, throw these in here and shake it around. So not only are you cleaning up what you just sanded off, but there's sometimes can be release agent from the injection molding process. We just want to make sure these are nice and clean to set up a good surface for the glue to adhere to. So we'll take these off, wipe them off, but it's alcohol. They should dry up, and make sure they're nice and dry before going to the next step. All right, so I use Vaseline here. We're going to oil the actual hinges. Some people use oil. I have this container of Vaseline that I've been using for all of my hinges. I've never had a problem. So until I run out of Vaseline, I'm just going to keep using it. But I'm not going to speed this up. I take a toothpick and coat the hinge, the center hinge point with the Vaseline and try to get it in all the crevices. And you don't want to put too much, but you want to cover the whole hinge part. And you can use a lighter. I use a little torch to just melt the Vaseline. It melts very easily. Obviously, you don't want this too close. You will see Vaseline melts very, very quickly. And for anyone who remembers the guy at the Toledo show selling those little torches, leave a comment. It's pretty cool. I still use mine. But after it's melted, you work it a little bit and get that Vaseline inside, and we're good to go. So the next step is to install the aileron horn. It's probably a good idea to do this before you actually attach the aileron to the wing. And these horns are a little bit different than what you're probably used to, but there is a slot for it. I'm trying to rub it with my finger and show you in the camera where that slot is, and it does fit perfectly in that slot. So just use your finger and you'll be able to see where that slot is. And I'm going to take a hobby knife, cut away some of the covering, but I'm not going to go all the way to the edges. I'm going to leave some to remain under the horn after we attach it to create a nice seam. So remove this covering, and again, this horn fits really, really nice in this slot, and I just press fit the horn into this slot to create a nice seam, and you'll see when I pull that away, it's really pressing down that remaining covering and looks really nice. And this next shot I'll show you from the leading edge back. I found that you can slide the horn, and I'll do it right here. You can start at the top and slide it in, and it slides perfectly, and there's an end stop, and that really makes that nice crease to keep that remaining covering underneath. So let's attach this. I use a hole punch to establish that first hole, and I really want to secure these well, so I'm going to use number 3 servo mounting screws. So I'll start a pilot hole with 1/16, and then just open up that hole with a 5/64 bit, and we'll attach these. So the one step I'm leaving out of the video is after I establish this and drilled these and attach the horns, when I'm gluing the pin hinges, I'm going to take this off and put a few drops of epoxy underneath the horn and into these holes to really secure this very well. This is attached, and here's one of the slight problems. The geometry isn't that great. That pivot point of the horn should be directly over the hinge line, and it's not quite there. And I don't know if that's because of the funky geometry they're doing with the pushrod going down, but we'll see. Here's my process for gluing the aileron pin hinges. I take my epoxy and I have a toothpick, and I go and take my time, get little dabs of epoxy and put it in the holes in the wing, and you can see I'm kind of rolling it around, rotating it, trying to coat the whole entire hole with epoxy. And you can see I put some paper towels down to help in case there's some drips. Take my time, make sure, go through every hole a few times, rotate it around, make sure the glue is all around the inside of those holes. And that little container of alcohol, you can just use that to dip some of your paper towels in to clean up some mess. So now it's time to do the pin hinges. I'm going to take some of my epoxy and coat the outside. I'm not going to go all the way to the center of the hinge, probably about halfway. And as we put these in, we're going to rotate the pin as we're inserting it into the hole to grab all of the epoxy we previously put in, and you'll see a better shot of that right here. We'll insert, and while we're inserting, we're rotating it. And this also helps if there's some excess around the hole. That rotating and going slow sometimes grabs some of that and pulls it in and creates a nice layer of epoxy all around that pin. So again, you can use that spare alcohol, get some Q-tips and wipe around the edges, and some paper towels. Hopefully this isn't too big of a mess, but just be ready with some paper towels to clean this stuff up as you go around. So if you notice, I didn't really do much for aligning these pins because that's what I'm going to do next. So here's the aileron, and there's no glue on the outside hinges or in the aileron. And what I'm doing, I'm just doing a test fitting to get this right. We'll put it on as the glue's drying in the wing, and we'll flex it. And then what we do is by flexing it and deflecting it down and then removing the aileron, pulling down, this is aligning those pins, and they should be good, and that's all you really need to do. While that epoxy is drying, we could mount and take care of everything in the servo pocket. Black Horse decided to mount these aileron servos at an angle, and I was a little bit nervous about getting to those bottom holes, but this shot I wanted to show you, you can clearly see and have access to all 4 servo mounting holes. We'll go ahead and mount this servo. I usually like to drill 1 or 2 holes and secure first and then drill the second holes, but we'll speed through this. And if you are worried about access, if you can find a long bit, and if you have a long 1/16 bit or something, that might help, but you shouldn't really need anything long. But I always look for excuses to use my nice DeWalt gyroscopic screwdriver. So now let's mount this hatch cover. I take a hole punch and poke holes through the covering from behind through those pilot holes. That way there's no guessing when drilling through. And of course the markings on the covering line up so you know which way to orient that. To secure this, I'm going to use my short, smaller number 2 servo mounting screws. So I'm only going to drill a 1/16 hole to mount this. So now all of our holes are drilled. Let's take the servo out and let's get the thin CA and go really careful and drop a few drops of CA on every hole that we've just drilled to harden up that balsa wood. A lot of times when I do this, as the CA is setting up, I take one of the screws and kind of run it through. That reestablishes the threads and also works the CA down into the hole if it isn't there. So this is a trick I always like to use. I have a flashlight in the wing, and we need to cut the opening for the push rod. And with the flashlight in there, you can see it's illuminating where the opening is. So I just take a hobby knife and cut around to clear out this covering. And I'm really excited about my camera. I love when I make those punctures and there's like that dust, boom. That really looks cool. So I've watched this shot over a zillion times, checking out that dust flying up. But this is pretty straightforward to clear out this hole for the push rod. Tune in to the very end of the video and watch me struggle to get that flashlight out. So now we have these little covers that are painted that are to go over that hole after everything's done. There is one as it comes, and I've trimmed one up, and it will be glued to cover that hole right there. And just aesthetics, I'm going to leave them off until the end, just to make sure I don't need all the access I can have to that push rod. While we're here, might as well run a servo extension for the aileron. There are strings glued to the wings inside, so just pull that string up, get your extension, tape it. A lot of times people get fancy with this, but it's a pretty straight shot, so I just used some blue tape and pulled it through. And I'm not sure the exact length of aileron servo extension I'm going to need. I have some extensions that I keep in the shop that are very long for building, and I'm just going to leave it there. Once it's run, you can always run a different size very easily. So we'll just get this taken care of right now. So now we have our extension, and the glue has dried, or it's almost dried. And so now let's go ahead and put the epoxy on the other side of the pin hinges. I'm not going to show putting the glue in the holes of the aileron itself. It's the same thing. Use the toothpick and roll it around inside to coat the walls. But here we're just putting the epoxy on the hinges, and now we can insert the aileron. And once it's inserted, we want to flex it and double check that we have everything and make sure there's no binding, that feels smooth. And we'll tape it. And I do this a few times, probably every 20 minutes, every half hour. Just take the tape off and work it to make sure that there's no glue where there shouldn't be. Do this, and then, set the watch on your timer for an hour, come back and do that again. Do that a few times before you let it sit overnight. We should be good with the aileron. We'll tape it up and we'll let it dry some more. So now we have the push rod. I've found that 118 millimeters is a good place to start. I also have my servo washers there and the hardware that comes with the kit. I use the 16 millimeter hole on a servo arm. And so I found to insert this, I attach the push rod to the servo arm first, and then insert it into the bay, back, and then forward through the hole towards the aileron. And this is a little clumsy. It's a little awkward, I'm not going to lie, but you'll be able to get it no problem. Once you attach to the servo, you'll see that there's a little bit of an angle, so you're going to have to rotate one of your ball links to line up with the aileron horn. And now we can attach the push rod to the horn. And I found that if you move the servo forward a little bit, it's a little bit easier to get this bolt in here. Now here's something I'm a little concerned about. This horn has that built-in nut sort of on the one side, so I think I might try to find a longer bolt and actually just put a nylock lock on there. But here you go, it's all connected up. We got the servo moving, we got aileron deflection, and we're good to go. Here's our hatch bay cover. The glue is dried in its holes, so we'll just go ahead and attach with short servo mounting screws. And this is it for the wings, the aileron servos, the push rods, and here it is in action working. See that push rod, the horn, everything's connected, everything's glued, all the holes are nice and drilled, the epoxy is dried, the pin hinges are good. We're ready and pretty much done with the wings. I'll leave the servo programming up to you, but that's using the 16 millimeter hole on the servo arm. And here's what operation looks like with that hatch covered. And those plastic coverings for that push rod hole, I will leave those on till the very end. So everyone, thanks for tuning in to this first episode of the Black Horse 92-inch Gilmore. We'll be back in a few days to talk about installing the landing gear and the wheel pants. So see you guys soon.